think we all remember the moment that Lindsay was in shambles in the courtroom after some difficult questions from the prosecution during testimony, and that stuck with me. We stood facing the courthouse the way we set out to, and over the next hour the crowd just grew enormously to hundreds of people, men and women. I think 25% of our crowd was men in pink, so that was awesome to see.
So we're here with Renee, who organized the Stand in Peace for Lindsay rally outside of the Plymouth County Superior Court in Massachusetts on Thursday, where Lindsay Clancy is on trial after strangling her 3 children in January of 2023. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, when you started tuning into the Lindsay Clancy trial, and how you came up with the idea to organize this event and how you spread the word about it?
Yeah, so I've been watching the trial since the beginning, and watching that, it was devastating, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and I still couldn't get it off my mind. So I created the event right then and put it out into the world. And by 4 o'clock the next morning, it had gone global.
And, where exactly did you spread the word about this? Did you go to TikTok, Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, so I use TikTok. I only use TikTok. But it did make its way onto Facebook and Instagram shortly thereafter from others sharing it.
Mm-hmm. And could you tell me a little bit about what the atmosphere was like when you arrived to the courthouse and, what it was like throughout the day?
Yeah, so I arrived at 6:30. I wanted to get there early. And when I pulled in, I already saw women standing in pink at the front of the tape where we were supposed to be standing. So they were already joining much earlier than the 7:45 time that I gave. And over the next hour, the crowd just grew enormously. To hundreds of people, men and women. I think 25% of our crowd was men in pink, so that was awesome to see. And it was beautiful. Women were sharing their stories with each other, embracing for hugs. It was the most peaceful gathering of that scale that I've ever seen.
And why exactly did you ask those in attendance to wear pink?
Early on, I think even day one of the trial and opening statements, the prosecution established that Cora loved to wear bows, and the image that was shown was Cora in a big pink bow. So we wore pink for Lindsay, of course, but also for Cora and her brothers, and we wore pink bows so that we could take Cora's bows back from the prosecution.
And, you said you arrived and there was already people there and, more people started to fill out throughout the day. About how many people do you think were in attendance?
I've had a hard time coming up with a number. Reports are hundreds, and that is at one time. People came and left throughout the day. We had people that stayed all day. We had people that left after the earlier part of the day, and then groups of people that came later in the day. So I think all at one time in the morning, during the earlier part of the day, we had 400 plus. Maybe I'm underestimating. It's hard to put a number on it, but there was a large group of people there.
Could you kind of walk me through what took place at the event? There were reports that, you guys stood in silence for an hour and then you ended the event by, having a group prayer and putting your arms up, making hearts with your hands. Could you tell me about everything that happened?
Yeah, so when we first got there, or when the crowd started growing, like I said, there were a lot of women talking and sharing their stories of mental health struggles with each other. I think for like the first hour, that's what was going on. People were just meeting and greeting, sharing their stories, embracing in hugs. We were putting our pink ribbons in our hair. And then, of course, when Mr. Reddington showed up, there were some cheers from the crowd. But after that, it was very peaceful, very silent. We stood facing the courthouse the way we set out to. And then shortly thereafter, everyone gathered in a circle and we said a prayer, and there were the hands of hearts, and there was just a large moment of silence.
There were reports that, the crowd kind of broke out in cheers once he arrived to the courthouse.
I know. I asked hundreds of ladies to stand in silence when Mr. Reddington pulled up to the courthouse. That was never going to happen. But it was beautiful. It wasn't like protesting. It wasn't rallying. He drove in his car with his window down. He nodded at the crowd and everyone just cheered for him. The same thing when he walked up. Of course, the news crews were around him, but everyone was really happy to see him.
So, there was a report that, you kind of implored the crowd to, you kind of directed the crowd to understand that Kevin Reddington has Lindsay's trust and that, he's here for her throughout this trial. Is that, what you believe, and everybody else in attendance with that excitement around Kevin Reddington's arrival?
Yeah, I think it's been clear from day one that Mr. Reddington really cares about Lindsay. He really understands the portion of the mental health issues that she was struggling with, and it appears that he is angry at the mental health systems for failing her. So my goal in saying that was, it's very apparent that he's got a handle on this and he's fighting from the right place in his heart. But also for the gathering alone, we wanted it to be a peaceful event, a quiet event. Mental health can be chaotic and loud, and that's what Lindsay has been suffering with. So we wanted to just be there to be her calm. And so I just let the crowd know Mr. Reddington has her fight. We don't have to be out here fighting for her. He's got her, and he's her voice, and he's our voice for many of us who also struggle with mental health issues. So it just allowed us to be still and be quiet and just kind of be her calm.
Could you tell me a little bit more about what the people in attendance were sharing with one another? Were they detailing their own postpartum struggles, their mental health struggles in general? Were there people who also felt that they were failed at some point by the mental health system?
Yeah, I mean, I think the general message is that many of them have been failed by the mental health care systems. And it's interesting because when this went out, this event, it wasn't just people in the United States, women in the United States. Online for the days leading up to the event, many people were messaging and showing their support from all over the world, countries all over the world. And it sounds like they have the same crisis for obtaining help for their mental health issues. And people were sharing their stories of postpartum depression or anxiety, but also in general, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, the effects of long-standing trauma. They were just sharing their stories of their issues and why this resonates with them, with each other, with me. There was the most precious young woman that walked up to me in tears, and I hugged her, and I wish I could find her because she was just amazing. She impacted me that day.
What did she say to you? Did she thank you for organizing the rally? Did she find a sort of support group there?
She did. She thanked me, and she said that, I think her exact words were, "You'll never know how much this means to me."
And, obviously the turnout there in Plymouth, Massachusetts was a lot of people. And as you've already mentioned, there's been support not only nationwide, but globally. There's been people on social media posting from Tennessee, Arkansas, California, and even so we're seeing people from different parts of the world. I saw people posting from Sweden, Germany. What is your reaction to this? Did you ever think that you organizing this event to take place in Massachusetts would reach these great distances?
I did not think that. I guess I was not surprised with the response because I think we're all well aware that there is a problem in obtaining the right help for mental health. But globally, I was surprised. It was, like I said, it was interesting to see that there were the same issues across the globe.
Was there anybody who reached out to you from, other states or other parts of the world telling you about their own organizations that they did through this or sharing their own stories with you?
I have had a lot of people share their stories with me. So it's been overwhelming and quite emotional to have women all over the world kind of trusting me with their stories. I think the first person that asked me, I'm so far away, but I want to stand with you. How can we do this? So I set up a website and made it so that people could post where they were going to hold local gatherings so that they could stand with us at the same time in the same moment in pink, but from afar. So as soon as that happened, women were creating events everywhere, all throughout the U.S. and, throughout the world.
I'm curious, there was also some videos afterwards once court was over for the day. Obviously, on Wednesday, the day before this event happened, the jury was dismissed a little earlier than normal, and there was kind of just concerns of what was going on. It seems apparent to be more procedural stuff. But court then ended early again the next day, and it seems like from videos online that people were still gathered outside of the courthouse and cheering on as Lindsay left. Were you there for that?
I was there when Lindsay left. It was a little different at the end of the day. I think there were a lot of people that were tuning in and watching the trial from their phones during the gathering. From what I've heard, it was kind of a hard day inside the courthouse, but they still supported her as she left. They waved to her as she drove, and they cheered, and it was beautiful. It was just really nice to see. The whole point in this was because that night when I was devastated by watching her, in shambles in the courtroom, I felt like she must feel so alone. And I hope that she now knows that she's not alone after seeing the enormous crowd of women and men standing there to support her.
If I may ask, have you had any sort of personal struggles yourself with mental health where, it kind of felt like a source of inspiration for this, of making sure that there is more awareness and, bringing people together to feel like it's okay to talk about what's going on?
Sure. So I had my son at 19 years old, and shortly thereafter I did start struggling with some mental health issues, some anxiety and depression. And postpartum was never a word that was brought to the table back then. I never heard it. I did seek treatment for anxiety and depression, and throughout my life since then, I've had my own struggles with that. Never diagnosed as postpartum. Like I said, nobody even brought that up to me. So I think, that's an important thing. People need to know the words postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. I think that a lot of us have not even heard that term. And I also think that for the women that were there, with us at the courthouse or at their own gatherings across the country and across the world, we all know, those of us that have had mental health struggles, that it doesn't need an invite. We don't ask for it. It just shows up uninvited. And it overstays its welcome, and it intrudes on every part of our daily lives. And to know that, and for that to resonate with us, and then to watch Lindsay go through what she's going through, knowing that she never asked for this, it's actually devastating.
I kind of just want to wrap up here with asking, what message were you trying to send to not only just Lindsay, but to the world as a whole? What was your whole point behind this event?
Yeah, I think the message, the thing that I've said a million times is, it should not take tragedy for people to pay attention to mental health, and it shouldn't cost lives. And by that I mean the lives of Cora and Dawson and Callan and nearly Lindsay and many others throughout the world, for psychiatric doctors to hear their patients. Lindsay begged for help. In the testimony, I heard that she begged for help. I don't know much more that she could have said. And she was failed. She was failed. And a lot of people are asking, what about the children? But they are the forefront of this message, because nobody wants another family to face what their family is facing now. Not to mention many other events over time that have happened. If mental health was approached differently and there was some systemic change, then a lot of tragedies that have happened may not have happened.